When Columbus discovered America, this continent was densely populated. 90 million people lived here, or about 1/3 of the world's population. But the colonizers destroyed half of the population. Some of the survivors of Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571, which crashed in the mountains. The survivors had to resort to cannibalism to survive. The pioneer of the automobile radio was Alfred Greb, who had to install a large antenna shaped like a clothes dryer on the bumpers around 1919. Looted Inca Cemetery, Peru, 1973. A severe natural disaster in Brazil in 2009, killing over 600 people. A dog named Leo stayed at his owner's grave for days. Child labor remained a serious issue well into the 20th century, and children often worked in various industries in the USA. A Girl from a Cotton Spinning Factory, 1908. Halloween at an American School, 1980s. On October 22, 1895, a train running at full speed to make up for its delay failed to brake in time. It crossed the Montparnasse station, broke through the facade, and went 10 meters beyond. A young guy spent almost 13 years in a coma. Upon waking up, he revealed that he heard every word said to him, including his mother saying, "I hope you die." Pro-Khomeini militia fighters patrolled the streets looking for the Arab population. Khorram Shah, Iran, 1979. The widely known photograph that changed the perception of AIDS. A father comforts his son, David Kirby, on his deathbed in Ohio, 1990. A mother teaches her children, Louisiana, USA, 1937. Thousands of Iranian women take to the streets of Tehran for a mass demonstration against the new revolutionary religious government and the mandatory hijab, March 1979. Telephone lines in New York, USA, 1903. Even in the distant 19th century, cats were memes. A narcotics officer after a raid on a drug den, USA, 1993. The longest recorded work career. Japanese man Shigezo Izumi worked 98 years on a beet plantation, retiring at 105. Passengers boarding the Titanic, 1912. The jaws of the extinct megalodon shark compared to a modern great white shark. According to the 1897 census, only about 25% of the population of Russia had surnames. Also, many people did not know their age. The world map used by Christopher Columbus in 1492. In 1948, a local tribal chief in North Dakota weeps as he is forced to sign a treaty handing over fertile land in the Missouri River Flats, his tribe's homeland, under the threat of his people's destruction. A century-old advertisement claimed that heroin kept your head always clear and fresh. Conjoined twins Pip and Flip, popular circus performers, 1923. An ultralight horse-drawn vehicle in motion in Paris, 1943. The Nanking Massacre, December 13th, 1937. Japanese forces storming Nanking massacred the civilian population. Over about 6 weeks, the toll is estimated at 300,000 dead and over 20,000 raped women. One of many variants of Vietnamese combat traps. When an American soldier fell into such a pit, his own weight would turn him into mince. Prisoners of the Sachsenhausen concentration camp liberated by Soviet and Polish troops. Germany, 1945. On April 1st, 1915, in the midst of World War I, a French plane appeared over a German camp and dropped what looked like a huge bomb. The soldiers scattered, waiting for an explosion, but none came. Instead, a large ball landed, bearing the words "April Fools." A champagne inspector with a special mask to protect from accidental bottle explosions. California, USA, 1933. In October 1989 in the USSR, a torpedo accidentally struck a submarine when the crew forgot to turn off its homing system during an exercise. The commander of the stricken submarine broadcast an emotional, profanity-laced message over the air. Victorian baby bottle, meant to simplify breastfeeding. Impossible to clean properly, it caused a rise in infant deaths and earned the nickname Murder Bottle. A man guards his house during mass riots over racial segregation. Chicago, 1919. Prostitute's identification card. Prostitution was legal in Russia, but only after registration, 1904. Farmer Mrs. Maud Lee and her daughter Pat enjoy breakfast with their pet sheep named Betty. England, 1949. Midwives show newborn triplets to their father, who fainted from emotion. New York, 1946. Unit 731, a conveyor belt of death. A special unit of the Japanese Armed Forces conducted biological weapons research, experimenting on live humans to determine how long a person could survive under various conditions, such as boiling water, dehydration, starvation, frostbite, and electric shock. The eruption of Khrushchevskaya Sopka taken from space. Russia, 1994. A local entrepreneur who carried chairs on his back and rented them out for 10 cents to tired tourists. Turkey, 1920. Adolf Eichmann walks in the courtyard of his cell at Ramla Prison, 1961, Israel. Adolf Eichmann was one of the main organizers of the Holocaust. Nuremberg's kind hangman, John Woods. When his victim was suspended in the air, he would grab their legs and hang with them, shortening the suffering of the person dangling in the noose. He died in 1950 from an electric shock while repairing wiring in his own home. Oldest photo, 1826. A boy reading in a London bookstore after an air raid, 1940. Princess Margaret caught in a gust of wind. Unlike Queen Elizabeth II, whose dresses had sewn-in weights, Margaret allowed herself more freedom, to the delight of nearby students. USA, 1950s, FBI fingerprint storage. Peaky Blinders, members of a gang that terrorized Birmingham, 1903. Albert Einstein with his mistress, Margarita Konenkova, a Soviet intelligence agent, USA, 1940s. Marilyn Lovell, wife of Apollo 13 commander, reads front page news, 1970. Murmansk after German carpet bombing, 1942. In one day, the Germans dropped 350 tons of bombs on the city. True love lasts forever. A kiss dating back 6,000 years. Discovered during construction work in Iran, 1972. Cave paintings depicting the daily life of people. Wadi Gerat, Algeria, 2000 BC. Real Men Shave, 1940. This is a wealthy family, 1910s, Liberia. In the 19th century, a movement arose in the U.S. to return freed African slaves to Liberia. Later, African Americans captured lands of indigenous tribes, enslaving them, and, replicating the U.S. lifestyle, became slaveholders. 18-year-old Arnold Schwarzenegger with his classmate, 1965. A visitor to the underground catacombs with a candle in hand smiles while examining an extensive collection of skulls. Paris, 1935. A break for tennis players, 1930. The burning of a village whose inhabitants were suspected of collaborating with guerrillas. Vietnam, 1968. The escort of a black man accused of raping a white woman, 1941. Female firefighters washed the blood of those killed in a German artillery attack from the asphalt, USSR, 1943. The daily life of a theatrical agent, 1950s. Milkmaid School, Canada, 1927. Once, the roof of an Aloha Airlines first-class cabin tore off at an altitude of 7,800 meters. The pilot managed an emergency landing. 94 of the 95 people on board survived. The body of the flight attendant who was sucked out was never found. 1988. In Africa, a baboon named Joseph worked as a signalman and conductor on the Pretoria railway line, performing his duties without making mistakes and successfully ridding the trains of fare dodgers. One of Hitler's doubles was his chauffeur. In the photograph, he is to the left of Hitler. The driver often substituted for Hitler at various events. Democratically elected President Salvador Allende, just seconds before his death, during a military coup at the presidential palace. Chile, 1973. Albanians flee to Italy in March 1991. Western Europe learned what a mass influx of refugees was for the first time in many years. At that time, more than 20,000 Albanians unexpectedly arrived at the Italian port of Brindisi. Australian soldiers captured in a moment of relief after their liberation from Japanese captivity, 1945. Horse-shaped device used to hold children still during X-rays, mid-20th century. A crowd tries to overturn a car with a black family during racial riots in the city of Clinton, USA, 1956. Emperor Wilhelm II of Germany visits black people at the Hamburg Zoo, 1909. Small, large, and ugly people who were exhibited as human curiosities to the paying public in the United States, 1932. Bicycle Regiment of the Dutch Army on the eve of the German invasion, 1940. Punt gun used for duck hunting, banned because it could kill up to 50 ducks at once, 1910s. The wives of astronauts involved in Apollo 8 hearing their husbands' voices while they were in orbit, 1968. On October 15, 1917, Mata Hari, a dancer of Oriental dances and the most romanticized spy of the 20th century, was executed for espionage on behalf of Germany. Mata Hari asked not to have her hands tied and no blindfold placed on her eyes. She blew a kiss to the executioners and said, "I am ready, gentlemen." A protester against the Vietnam War places a carnation into the barrel of a soldier's rifle aimed at peaceful people, 1967. A pipe-smoking endurance contest at Yale University, 1959, USA. World Bank President Paul Wolfowitz takes off his shoes before entering a mosque during a visit to Turkey, 2007. A mother and her 8 sons, all of whom served in the American Army, and all returned home alive in the 1950s. Japanese burying Chinese POWs alive, Second Sino-Japanese War, 1937. Rescue of a stuffed toy, a teddy bear after the bombing of Liverpool, UK, 1941. Special license plates for habitual offenders with distinctive badges, greatly simplified police work, USA, 1939. A horse in a tree after a storm in Louisville, Kentucky, 1937. A Polish man and a German woman tied to a pillory of shame for having a relationship. The sign reads, "I am contaminating the race." French women accused of collaborating with the Germans are paraded through the streets. It seems they are also being forced to give the Hitler salute. World War II. Friedrich Nietzsche in a psychiatric hospital, 1899. The final of the FA Cup, Cardiff City versus Arsenal, April 23, 1927. Police at Wembley literally make their way over fans' heads to their service spots. A radio broadcast about gangsters, USA, 1930s. A woman carries a sewing machine on her head, using the local method of carrying. Women from these regions usually carry water jugs on their heads. Kuwait, 1955. At the start of a combined race of dogs and women, USA, 1927. Dr. Joseph Mengele, one of the main war criminals in history, conducted inhumane experiments on people in the Auschwitz death camp. U.S. Lieutenant Jeremy Shales plays baseball inside one of Saddam Hussein's palaces, Iraq, 2003. Ancient ruins of an indigenous civilization, Arizona, 1873. One of the 1.5 million victims executed in Cambodia under the Khmer Rouge regime, just for being well-educated, 1978. Notorious African dictator Francisco Nguema ordered the execution of his regime's opponents on Christmas 1975 in a unique way. 150 people were shot by soldiers dressed as Santa Claus on a football field to music. In 1979, Nguema was overthrown and executed. Testing bulletproof glass, New York, 1931. Passers-by gather to watch World War II. Hero Audie Murphy visit a barber, Texas, 1946. Kate Camberley rescued over 600 animals since 1943. She turned her home into a dog shelter and fought officials to protect her animals. Historic handshake between Thomas Stafford and Alexei Leonov, 1975. Police confronting Mike Tyson after he bit off part of Evander Holyfield's ear, 1996. Thank you for watching this video until the end. I hope these photos impressed you. Some may have made you angry, brought a smile, made you happy, or perhaps even caused some negativity. Feel free to leave your comments and stay tuned for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Bye.